Most people believe that life changes when something inside them changes. A belief, a habit, a mindset, a pattern. So they work endlessly on themselves. They observe, they correct, they improve. They think awakening is a process of becoming. But the law of being points in the opposite direction. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be fixed. The restlessness you feel is not proof that something is wrong. It is proof that something unnecessary is constantly moving. The mind learned early that movement equals safety. If it reacts, it feels alive. If it adjusts, it feels in control. If it explains, it feels protected. So it keeps moving. Thought after thought, reaction after reaction, adjustment after adjustment. And this movement becomes normal, invisible. You don't notice it because it never stops. But this inner movement is not neutral. It consumes presence. It fragments attention. It disconnects you from what is actually happening. The law of being begins when you notice this movement without trying to stop it. Not controlling, not suppressing, just seeing. A thought arises. You feel the pull to respond. A sensation appears. You feel the urge to interpret. A situation unfolds. You feel pressure to decide immediately. This pressure is not coming from reality. It comes from the habit of constant internal motion. The mind is addicted to participation. If it is not participating, it feels irrelevant. So it inserts itself everywhere. But here is the quiet truth. Life does not require your internal commentary to function. Reality does not collapse when you pause. In fact, it becomes clearer. Stillness does not mean nothing happens. It means nothing unnecessary happens. Most interactions are not real actions. They are rehearsals, simulations, defensive positioning, and they drain more energy than actual movement ever could. The law of being reveals that exhaustion is not caused by life. It is caused by how much you interfere with it. You think you are responding to reality, but most of the time, you are responding to your own thoughts about reality. A loop, a closed circuit. And the more you try to fix the loop, the tighter it becomes. This is why effort backfires. Why trying to calm the mind creates more noise. Why chasing stillness pushes it further away. Stillness cannot be achieved through movement. Presence cannot be reached through effort. Being is not a destination. It is what remains when the urge to interfere dissolves. At first, this feels uncomfortable. Without inner movement, the mind feels exposed. It has nothing to hide behind. No strategy, no commentary, no emotional armor. So it creates fear. It whispers, if you don't react, something bad will happen. But look honestly, has constant reaction ever prevented pain? Or has it only delayed it, magnified it, or dragged it into the future? Reaction is always late. It responds to what already passed. Being is immediate. It meets the moment before interpretation, before defense, before identity. This is why being feels grounded. It does not chase certainty. It rests in clarity. And clarity does not shout. It does not rush. It does not argue. When inner movement slows, you begin to notice space. Small at first, between thought and response, between sensation and meaning, between event and identity. This space is not emptiness. It is intelligence without tension. In this space, life breathes. You no longer collapse into every experience. You let it pass through. Nothing sticks. Nothing accumulates. This is not emotional suppression. It is emotional completion. Feelings arise. They peak. They dissolve. No story required. No management required. The law of being is not about detaching from life. It is about ending the internal tug of war with it. You stop pulling life toward an idea of how it should be, and life stops pushing back. This is the first real shift. Not peace, not bliss, but relief. The relief of no longer carrying the moment forward. The relief of not needing to be someone specific. The relief of not having to know what comes next. From here, something fundamental changes. Not outside, inside. The need to react weakens. Not because you trained it away, but because you saw through it. You saw that movement was never protecting you. It was exhausting you. And when movement loses its purpose, it naturally slows. This is where being begins to stabilize, not as an idea, as a lived state. And when being stabilizes, life starts responding differently. Not dramatically, not instantly, but unmistakably. And this is where the law of being starts to reveal its depth. When inner movement begins to slow, something unfamiliar appears. Not peace, not clarity, uncertainty. The mind is not used to stillness. It is used to managing. So when reactions weaken, the mind feels as if it is losing ground. It asks questions. Should I do something? Should I respond? Am I missing an opportunity? Am I making a mistake by staying still? These questions are not wisdom. They are withdrawal symptoms. The mind has been in control for so long that the absence of control feels dangerous. But nothing is wrong. What you are experiencing is the gap between habit and truth. For most of your life, reaction felt necessary. You believed reacting was how you stayed safe, how you stayed relevant, how you stayed ahead of pain. But reaction does not protect. It anticipates. It prepares for a future that exists only in thought. And while the mind prepares, life continues moving without your permission. This is where exhaustion is born. Not from action, from anticipation, not from events, from imagined outcomes. The law of being shows you something subtle. You are tired because you live ahead of yourself, always slightly in the future, always bracing, always adjusting. Being brings you back, not forcefully, not dramatically. It brings you back by removing the need to go anywhere else. When you stop reacting, you don't become passive. You become available. Available to what is actually happening, not what might happen. This availability changes everything. At first, it feels like vulnerability. You notice sensations more clearly. Emotions move without being labeled. Situations unfold without immediate interpretation. The mind wants to jump in, to explain, to define, to decide. But you let it wait, not suppressing it, just not obeying it immediately. This waiting is powerful. It breaks the automatic chain between stimulus and response. And in that break, you begin to see something important. Most reactions are unnecessary. They do not improve the situation. They do not add clarity. They only add noise. When you don't react, life does not collapse. People do not disappear. Opportunities do not vanish. In fact, things often resolve themselves without your interference. This is not coincidence. It is alignment. Reality is intelligent. It does not require micromanagement, but it responds to coherence. And coherence appears when internal conflict dissolves. The moment you stop arguing with reality, reality stops arguing with you. This is not philosophy. It is observable. A conversation softens when you don't defend yourself. A situation resolves when you don't force timing. A decision becomes obvious when you stop trying to choose. Being reveals that clarity is not something you reach. It is something that remains when confusion is no longer fed. Confusion feeds on reaction. Every reaction reinforces the belief that something must be fixed. Being removes that belief, not by replacing it, by making it irrelevant. As reaction loses authority, action becomes simpler. You no longer act to escape discomfort. You act because action is natural. Sometimes action happens. Sometimes stillness happens. There is no internal debate, no justification required. This is not detachment. This is precision. Action without reaction is clean. It does not leave residue, no regret, no second guessing, no emotional hangover. The mind fears this simplicity because it cannot control it. But control was never real. It was an illusion created by constant internal movement. True stability does not come from managing life. It comes from trusting presence. Presence does not mean awareness of everything. It means non-resistance to what is here. When you resist less, you carry less. When you carry less, you move freely. This freedom is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek validation. It simply operates. From the outside, people may not understand it. They may project calm, confidence, detachment, but inside it feels ordinary, natural, unforced. This is how being feels. Not elevated, not special, just aligned. The law of being is not about becoming someone new. It is about stopping the effort to maintain someone old. An identity built on reaction requires constant energy. An identity rooted in being requires none. You are not disappearing. You are simplifying. And simplicity is powerful because it cannot be destabilized. Drama needs reaction. Conflict needs resistance. Confusion needs participation. When you withdraw participation, these patterns dissolve, not immediately, but inevitably, because they have no fuel. The mind may protest. It may create urgency. It may warn you that you are falling behind. Let it speak, but do not follow. Presence does not argue with the mind. It outlives it. As you remain in being, a subtle authority returns. Not dominance, not control. Stability. You trust your timing. You trust silence. You trust non-action. And when action comes, it is decisive. No hesitation, no force, no emotional weight. This is why being changes how reality responds. You no longer push against life, and life stops pushing back. From here, manifestation stops being a practice. It becomes a side effect. Not because you want something, but because you are no longer misaligned. Reality reflects coherence automatically. No rituals required. No affirmations needed. Just alignment. This is not mystical. It is structural. A system responds to stability. And being is the most stable state available to you. The law of being does not promise comfort. It offers truth, and truth simplifies. When you no longer react, you stop leaking energy. When energy stabilizes, life reorganizes. Not around desire, around coherence. And this is where the shift becomes visible. At a certain point, something becomes obvious. You are no longer trying to make anything happen. And strangely, things begin to happen anyway. Not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, naturally. This is where most people get confused. They expect a reward, a sign, a breakthrough, a sudden wave of certainty. But the law of being does not announce itself. It integrates. Life does not shift because you waited long enough. It shifts because resistance dissolved. When internal friction disappears, external friction has nothing to push against. This is the moment when life begins to feel cooperative, not because it changed, because you stopped interfering. Being does not attract events, it allows alignment. And alignment rearranges timing. Opportunities appear without being chased. Conversations unfold without being steered. Decisions emerge without pressure. You notice this most clearly in what no longer happens. Less urgency, less explanation, less emotional charge. Situations that once triggered reaction now pass through you. Not because you became stronger, because there is nothing left to defend. This is not numbness. This is clarity without noise. In the past, your actions were shaped by tension. Even good intentions were often fueled by fear. Fear of missing out. Fear of falling behind. Fear of not being enough. Being removes fear by removing the imaginary future that fear lives in. When you are fully here, fear has no reference point. There is nothing to predict, nothing to brace for, only presence. From this place, action becomes precise. You speak when something needs to be said. You move when movement is natural. You stop when stopping is correct. There is no strategy behind it, no mental rehearsal, just alignment. People often mistake this for confidence, but confidence still depends on outcome. Being does not. Being is stable, even when outcomes are uncertain. This is why it looks grounded. This is why it feels calm. Not because you know what will happen, but because you no longer need to know. Life becomes simpler when you stop negotiating with it. Most suffering is a negotiation. If this happens, I'll be okay. If that changes, I can relax. If I reach this point, I can rest. Being ends negotiation, not by rejecting desire, but by removing dependence. You may still want things, but you do not need them to be present. And this changes how reality responds. Neediness repels clarity. Alignment invites it. This is not a moral rule. It is energetic. Systems respond to stability. People respond to grounded presence. Situations resolve around coherence. You do not command reality. You stop confusing it. When the signal is clean, the response is accurate. This is why manifestation works only when you forget about it. The moment you try to use being to get something, you leave being. You re-enter reaction. Wanting is movement. Being is still. This does not mean you must reject goals. It means goals no longer define your state. You act without attachment. You move without tension. You allow without waiting. And life adjusts, not to your desires, to your state. This is subtle, but unmistakable. You notice timing improving, encounters becoming precise, resistance decreasing. Not because the world became kinder, but because you stopped resisting it. From here, the nervous system recalibrates. You no longer live in constant readiness. The body relaxes, breath deepens, awareness widens. You're no longer scanning for threats, no longer bracing for impact. This is safety, not created by protection, created by presence. The mind may still arise, thoughts still appear, but they do not pull you away. They pass like weather. You do not identify with them. You do not fight them. You do not follow. This neutrality is power, not passive power, stable power, the kind that does not need to prove itself. From this place, life becomes responsive. You are not ahead of it. You are not behind it. You are with it. And when you are with life, life supports you. Not emotionally, structurally. Things line up, paths open, solutions appear. Not always the ones you expected, but the ones that fit. This is where trust replaces control. Not blind trust, experiential trust. You trust being because you see what happens without it. You remember the exhaustion, the overthinking, the constant adjustment, and you no longer want to return. Being is not an escape. It is the end of unnecessary effort. You still live, you still engage, but without inner friction. This is what freedom actually feels like. Not excitement, not euphoria, relief, deep relief. the relief of not having to manage existence. The law of being does not ask you to believe anything. It asks you to stop interrupting what already works. Reality is functional. Life is intelligent. Your only task was to stop interfering. When you do, you discover something quietly profound. Nothing was missing. Nothing needed fixing. Nothing needed becoming. You were already aligned. You were just busy reacting. Now, as reaction fades, being remains, and being is enough.